I'm Carrie.
I'm Toni, and we are
Two Cranky Creatives.
This podcast is brought to you by the Graphics Gang, our online community you can find at patreon.com/graphics gang. Paid members can also watch many of the unedited podcast video recordings. So what are we cranky about today, Toni?
we are cranky about all that sneaky language that finds its way into the contracts we have to deal with, Carrie.
Yes, so cranky. There is so much sneaky language in contracts, in every kind of contract that I come across on, I feel like, a regular basis. And sneaky is the perfect word for that.
Well, it's designed that way. And before we get too far into it, the requisite disclaimer, we are not lawyers.
Correct.
This is just our personal experience, our personal understanding, and the things that we have experienced in the multitude of contracts that we have dealt with over the years. So,
thank you, Toni, for covering our butts. And yes, reminding everyone this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. But, contracts there are a lot of different types of contracts that we run into, that I run into, and I know you do too, as artists, that can be really sneaky. That can have really sneaky language in the fine print, or maybe not even in the fine print, be it contracts from agents or from art licensing partners or freelance clients.
Yep.
And, let's talk about what makes us cranky. So do you want to share any examples, Toni, of anything? I'm sure you have a lot. I do too. Like anything you've run into that was a red flag, that was like, oh my God, this is sneaky. And, maybe you're glad you caught it, or wish you had caught it before and you didn't.
Yeah. So we'll talk about like the sneaky first, but then we'll talk about some of the things that are considered standard that people don't realize you can negotiate.
Yeah.
So sneaky, and I'm going to say, I don't believe there was any nefarious intent.
Right.
But so I do a lot of freelance work, and over the years, I have done a lot of that with individuals and small businesses. And so these entities tend to be working on shoestring budgets, which means they are not often using a lawyer to write their contracts. And so which means that I do have a standard contract that I try to use whenever possible in these situations. But occasionally I get people sending me their contract.
Yeah.
And so like the first example that jumps to my mind is those blanket statements where you're kind of like signing your artistic life away if you're not careful and catch it. So for instance, like I was being I can't think of the right word, but I was talking with this boutique about being a commissioned artist, and I received their standard contract, and the way that it was written. So the way that the deal worked was they would source work for me. I would be on their roster. They would source work and they would receive a commission. Totally, like, that's perfect. Not a problem. That is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. The way the contract was written, they got a percentage of all the work I did, regardless of whether they sourced it or not.
Wow.
Right. So even if I sourced it myself, they got a 30% commission. Now, first of all, that's a large commission. And even for them sourcing it, that's a large commission, but they didn't set my rates. So my thought when we first discussed the rate and everything like that was that I would build their 30% into my prices.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's what you do. But, but when I got that contract, I was like, no.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Like, no, you don't get 30%. And you see that a lot with agents. And, like a lot of times, if you're not careful, they've written that language in a way that they get a percentage of everything you do, not just the work they source for you.
Yeah.
And in that particular instance, I just wrote back and was like, I need you to rewrite this section to make it very clear that you're only getting a percentage of the work you source.
Right.
And if you do that, I will sign. Because the rest of it was just very basic. But, and this is the danger of, they have a lot of these platforms now like Honeybook and stuff like that. And I'm not,
LegalZoom.
yeah, where like they're like a lot of people are using them because they get these like free contract language as part of this platform that they're using. And this clearly came from something like that. And it just, and I was just like, no, like you have to change that language. There's no way I'm signing that. So
yeah,
that's like the first one.
They probably didn't even realize or notice that it was written like that or think about what that meant. That's an ideal situation. It was just them being a little bit ignorant but imagine if, you hadn't said anything or you didn't know to look for that.
Right.
That could have been really bad. Now, the other thing is if they sent you that contract and they probably weren't aware of what that even meant, I would like to think that in reality, they then wouldn't be coming after you for that anyway. But, my mom, one of my mom's friends who used to run his own huge business, he had like a printing shop. He said, because I had shown him a contract a while ago that was art related, and it was just kind of asking his opinion. This was at the very, very beginning of when I was starting out as a surface designer. And he said, I said to the people that sent me this contract, I said, well, I feel like this language should be changed. And they said, oh, well, we don't really enforce that. And this friend of my mom said, if you can say it, you can write it. And if you don't write it, it doesn't count. He's like, if it's in the contract, it doesn't matter what they say verbally or even in an email, even if it's in writing, because that contract is what is legally binding.
Correct.
And it's like, they may say, oh, don't worry about that. Or, oh, that's just standard for all of our artists or whatever. It doesn't matter because that's what the contract says.
Exactly.
So if they don't enforce it, why is it in there?
Exactly. And that would be my response. Well, if you don't enforce it, then you have no problem taking it out.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, so there are so many red flags that I have run into in both art licensing and potential agency contracts. Now, I have an agent right now and I absolutely love them. And their contract with me is like fabulous. And, I think they're great and they're very fair. Everything feels very fair and equal. But when I first started out in the surface design world, I was like, I have to have an agent. First of all, I had this mistaken idea that if I had an agent that like everything would be sunshine and roses and unicorns and I would never have to lift a finger other than to draw a picture ever again, which is not true. But, I did pitch a lot of agents and I did get a few bites. And there are agencies out there that basically, here's the way it works. If there's an art licensing agency or an illustration agency, they have no business if they don't have us, the artists. Like we are their bread and butter. So if they don't have us, they have no way to make any money. But they also know that we as artists, and I was in this position, can get really excited and impulsive and really feel really desperate. Like, oh my God, I've sent hundreds of pitch emails and no one's answering me. If I had an agent, they would handle all this and, all that stuff. I have run into multiple agency contracts that have similar clauses like to what you're talking about, where it's like, we get a percentage of any art that you sell to anyone, even if it's not through us, while you're with our agency.
Yeah.
And also I've run into with agency contracts, non-compete. So here's the thing. You could sign an art licensing contract where it has, okay, maybe your terms are like a 1 year, and then you have to renew or whatever. You could get screwed by that, but it's only a year. Some of these agency contracts are 2, 3, 5 years. And then some of them even have contract or part of the contract, like clauses that say they have a non-compete, which means even after you leave our agency for 5 years, you cannot pitch any other agent. And you also cannot pitch any of the companies that we work with or any of their competitors, which means basically the entire industry.
Right.
So your hands are tied for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
that is, and people don't notice that.
Uh-huh.
And they sign these things because they're so excited.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, somebody wants my art. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then and I had this rainbow grass is greener idea of what an agent would do for me, and I thought there's no way I'll be able to get any art licensing deals without an agent. And when I saw that contract that I showed to my mom's friend, I literally almost signed it.
Uh-huh.
Like I was like about to hit the accept and sign button on DocuSign. And then something stopped me. And I was kind of like, let me think about this. And I'm really glad I did, because I almost just signed away a lot of my work.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is run, and run some more. Like run, Forrest, run. If any contract you have has a non-compete in it, I don't care. Like, and that is Toni talking. Like, never, ever, 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 ever sign something with a non-compete in it. I mean, I think the tides are going to change. For a minute there, it was looking like we were going to see a ban on non-competes in this country. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. For the most part, they can be really hard to enforce. However, in certain states, they are very easy to enforce. And it depends on, like for instance, we're not going to get into the weeds, but there's right to work states in this country where like unions are like really discouraged and like, all these other things. Like I've lived in several of those.
I'm in one of them now, Georgia.
I know. I'm pretty sure Kansas is a right to work state, but I could be wrong about that. But so like in states like that, the laws always favor the employer. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, so you're more likely to have non-competes enforced in those states. You're less likely in a state like California. Like you may have more leeway in a state like California, which has much more egalitarian laws for labor and things like that. But you can't count on that. And so for me, the biggest red flag of them all is a non-compete. Like, why? Why are they trying to like make sure your career is crushed if you're not working with them?
I'm going to jump in and say non-compete is not the same as non-exclusive or exclusive, by the way, for our life. Yeah. Yes. Just wanted to clarify that.
Right. A non-compete is you cannot work. You cannot compete against them in the industry. So you're pitching against them if you're not going through them.
Right.
Right. Exclusivity is you can only license with a specific company. And usually there are term limits for that.
And it's usually tied to specific art. So you give them, a specific piece of art, and then that art is licensed exclusively through them. Right. Usually there's a time limit, and most often it's also in a specific industry too.
Correct.
So,
Like Minted is known for its exclusivity, right? So if you, like, especially if you do a Minted contest, like a greeting card that won that contest is going to be exclusive to Minted. You can't sell it anywhere else. And I think there's a period of time, and then like 6 or 8 months afterwards, and then like there's a time limit expiration, and then you can sell it elsewhere. But
I think
during that, I just saw something about it in one of their emails, but I don't remember the exact terms. So exclusivity is definitely different than non-competes. But like any agent or agent-like entity, because that boutique was not an agent, but they were sourcing work, that wants a percentage of what you do, you like the sneaky language you got to be really careful of is making sure to restrict that down to only what they are sourcing for you.
Right.
And to your point about excitement, Carrie, I think, and I ran into this back when I was a new writer. So like, I think I sold my first book in 2010. And, I was in a lot of writer circles and a lot of, various groups for writers. And I think, and this, I find this to be true for our artists as well, is this belief that you need them.
Yeah.
Right. Or, so, but like, I'll never forget, I was negotiating my third contract for the third book in the series that I was writing. And the industry had begun to change, and they wanted to change my royalty rate from the rate that I had in my previous 2 contracts. And they really gave me a shitty rate.
Oh,
and
no.
I wrote back And, at the time I had a little bit of leverage. I was their best-selling author. And I was like,
Yay.
number one, I'm your best-selling author.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said that, like, I didn't say that. You said that. Like, I'm your best-selling author. And right now I have 100% of the rights. So I have 100% of the royalties. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I can sell this book elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't need to sell it to you.
Right.
And I have download information that proves it sells.
Yeah.
So like, I don't need you. You need me, not the other way around.
And that's kind of the way a lot of these agents work, is they assume that, you need them, and they behave accordingly. They're kind of like, so an agent is supposed to be someone who works for you as the artist.
Right.
But very often the attitude is reversed. Like, you work for them. Now, granted, I mean, there are agents that send out art calls and expect certain artists or artists with their agency to be like, okay, every 6 months or every 2 weeks or whatever, you have to produce new work. And that's, of course, going to be in the contract, but that's standard, I guess. I've heard about that happening a lot. It's kind of just to make sure that you're continually creating new, fresh work that's going to be on trend based on what they want you to produce. But the thing is, these agents, these art licensing agents or illustration agents or literary agents, they work for us as the artists. They're supposed to be like our employees, basically.
Right. It's a relationship. Now, I will say, throughout my career, I have never engaged an agent. I have toyed with it. I've pitched it a couple times. I negotiated all of my book contracts on my own.
Yeah.
Sometimes to my detriment, sometimes not. I've existed in two creative careers where agents are kind of like omnipresent, right? And one of the reasons that I, shied away from a literary agent was mainly because it just wasn't necessary writing romance novels. Romance novels are one of the few genres that you can still direct submit to a lot of agencies. And I didn't want to give up any more of my money. I was already splitting my royalties with the publisher. So why did I didn't want to give up, I'm cheap like that. I don't want to give up any more money.
Yeah. You said you direct submit to agencies. You meant publishers, right?
Yes, I meant publishing agency was the thought in my head. But
sorry, no, I know, because I was in the literary world too, and I was not writing romance novels, and I was told again and again, if you don't have a literary agent, forget it.
Yeah, and that's just not true. It's just that there are very few publishing houses that will take direct submission. And of course, when you are doing that, you're going straight into a slush pile and you're hoping somebody reads it.
Yeah. Now,
the way my book career has gone, and quick update from our episode with Kay, I finally got paid.
You did?
Yeah, I got the money yesterday.
Yay! Wow. It's weird, maybe because you put it out there into the universe. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Finally. So now I've got other questions for them, but I'm not threatening them with like hiring lawyers in the UK anymore. So for me, like, it started because I won a writing contest, right? And the prize in the writing contest was a contract. And I was with Accent Press in the UK, and I'm not with them anymore. They sold everything to another. Now I'm with Hachette. So the contract was kind of a done deal. So this is more writing based, but here's some of the hard lessons I learned with that contract. Because I got bit in the ass hard. Hard. So first of all, a standard writing contract is life of copyright. And if you don't know what life of copyright is until the death of the author and then 70 years beyond. So
it's almost like public domain-ish.
That's how we end up in the public domain, as life of copyright expires.
Okay.
So like, for instance, like, let's say I live to be 100 years old. Okay. That means like 2073 plus another 70 years. That's when the copyright would expire. But when you license to a publishing house for life of copyright, that's how long they own your rights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they have the rights, not you.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's life of copyright. But and I have one semester of business law when I got my degree, my MBA.
Yeah.
Right. So I did the research and I was like, oh, this is standard.
Mm-hmm.
This is standard. And so I didn't think much about it. And so I went ahead and I signed that. But a couple other things I did was one, there was sneaky language in there that they became my agents.
Oh, so
Okay?
you couldn't work with a literary agent then?
No, just for that particular book. Anything related to that book, they became and I'm air quoting for everybody who can't see this, the agent. And that bit me so fucking hard later on. So, because basically what I didn't understand in that language, because when I read it, I was just like, okay, that means they get to make some decisions about the books that I am licensing to them. Right. So I just kind of I thought that made sense. What I didn't realize is that it gave them the power to negotiate on my behalf without ever talking to me.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So that's something to look out for, is anything that says they get to act as your agents in the course of business of whatever you're doing. Be very, very careful with that language. Talk to a lawyer about exactly what it means. In the case of my book contract, it meant they got to negotiate on my behalf without including me in the conversation.
Oh my God.
And so life of contract, so it was life of copyright, and they got to act as my agent. And the other thing that I didn't know, and this is very specific to books, so a standard book contract will say things like you're licensing it to them for the audiobook and for translated copies and for all the various ways this book could happen, which sounds great, right?
Yeah, you're like, look, I'll make money on this and money on that, and it'll be in every country and cool.
Right.
No.
But no, that is so sneaky, because they may not be planning to produce any of that for you. So if they aren't planning to do an audiobook for you, you can no longer go find somebody else to do the audiobook for you, because they own the rights now. And so you have to go back and say, exactly what are you producing?
Yeah.
And then you take away everything, right, that they're not promising you. You take that out of the contract. And these are the things that you have to watch out for. So I didn't do any of that with my very first book. It debuts. I was on High Street. I was in a bunch of I don't even remember. I'll be there. It was always in the UK, because my publisher was in the UK. So I was the way that they told me, and I had a couple friends in the UK that actually went and sent me pictures of my book. But
oh, cool.
There were book stands on their I would call it a subway, but I think they call it the tube. So there were these book stands.
Yeah, kind of like the newspaper things.
Yeah.
You see. Yeah.
Right. So my book was all these places. And so I got some pictures, and it was cool. It was everywhere. I was making lots of money. I got to number 34 on Amazon's paid list. I was rocking and rolling. And then that agent clause bit me in the ass. So they decided, in whatever reasons that they had, that they were going to sell the North American rights to another publishing house here in the United States. And the way that they phrased it to me in their communication was, we feel that this agency will do a better job marketing your book in North America. And I disagreed wholeheartedly with the plan, but I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
because
you were locked in.
Yep. And then the other thing they really fucked me over with is they negotiated in advance. And people think that's great. It's not. Avoid an advance like the fucking plague, right? Do not get an advance if you can help it, because the standard advance in the writing world is $5,000. Okay.
Yeah. How does an advance hurt you?
Oh, I'm about to go into all that.
Okay.
So my first book was straight to royalties, and I got 50% royalties, which was practically unheard of. I got 50% royalties. Now, mind you, this is this is the way royalties work in the book world, is the distributor is going to get a percentage, right? So let's say Amazon. I think Amazon was getting 30%. So if the book is $10, Amazon got $3, and then the $7 had to be split between me and the publisher. So I was getting $350 on every book. Okay. So that's how it works. So I got 50% royalties. And I went straight to royalties. So from first book sold, I got $3.50. And that's not how it works. So But I think grand total, I made $35,000 on that book. Now, the thing that you got to understand is the average sales of a fiction book at that time was roughly $5,000. Like that's what they expected to make, $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
I had made 35. Okay. So they negotiated a $5,000 advance with this publishing house in Chicago, of which I only got $2,500 because I had a 50-50 split.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But publishing houses do something called basket accounting. All right. And so I don't remember all the specifics of it, but I can tell you right now that that book came out in 2010, I want to say. And they sold the rights somewhere in 2012. I still have not paid back that advance. What year are we?
2025.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's because of the way they do the accounting. So they actually
So you have to pay the advance back.
Correct.
Oh,
and
I didn't even know that.
You have to pay the advance back before you ever see $1 in royalties.
Oh.
And then, so I had the $5,000 advance on my first book, and then Accent sold my second book to them. And so I had another $5,000 advance with that. So really it's $2,500 both. And so now not only do I have to pay back the advance on the first book, I got to pay back the advance on the second book before I'll get royalties on the first book.
Oh my God. That sounds like a financial trap if I've ever heard of one.
It's called basket accounting. And it is ridiculous. And then on top of that, there's all these different ways they're selling the book, and you have to like wait for returns. And like, so my next fight with the publisher is, where are the statements for the American house?
Yeah.
Have I paid it back yet?
Yeah.
Where are my royalties? Like, I need someone to give me an accounting.
And yeah.
You know, but, and so here's the other thing. So they did produce an audiobook. The book is out, right? And so that's fine. It's still selling in the UK.
That's awesome.
That's who had to pay me. The UK
Yeah.
people had to pay me. I haven't seen a dime out of America.
Wow.
And the way that they fucked me over was they took it off the market while they changed the cover and the grammar. Because again, I wrote it for the UK market. So even though I wrote it the way I write, they converted it all to UK grammar. Okay.
Okay.
And UK spelling, right? So the U's went into words like color, you know, they made it all UK English. So the bright idea of the American publisher, you know, while my book is like climbing the charts, is take it off the market so that they can change the cover and change the grammar.
Wow.
Needless to say, it never recovered. But couple years later, I get an email. We want to option the rights for your book for a movie.
That is, oh my God. Did you?
Guess who I had to tell it to though? My quote unquote fucking agent. I had to refer them back.
Could you? Yeah. And then you had to like, it was out of your hands, right?
And they said no.
Oh my God. Well, you guys listening, if that's not a warning to look at your contracts, I don't know what is. Wow.
Right. And do not give anything away that you do not have in writing that they are going to give you back. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. Oh, I still think about that. And then then they sold it. So Accent sold me to Hatchet.
Yeah.
And that's who I've been fighting with for the last 6 months to pay me.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
That is crazy. I mean, and you know, you just don't think about the elaborate ways that you can get screwed over by a contract, or, and, you know, it's like, and I think about, you know, me being an artist and being new and being so excited. So imagine this, picture yourself as you just started out as an illustrator and surface designer, and you're pitching companies. You're like, okay, I finally mustered up the courage. I'm going to send my art. I'm going to send some sell sheets, or I'm going to send my portfolio. And, you know, you're getting crickets, or you're getting no, or you're getting unread emails if you're using an email tracker like me. And you just start feeling with every rejection or, you know, ignoring, you know, being ignored, more and more hopeless, because it is a lonely, it can feel very hopeless. It can be soul crushing, like literally. And it feels personal. It does. We've already talked about this. And then all of a sudden, here comes this agent on a white horse that's like, hello, we
Right.
would love to take your art and then we're going to show it to all these we're going to get your art in Target. We're going to get
Right.
your art in Bed Bath and Beyond. We're going to get your art in TJ Maxx. All you have to do is sign on this dotted line. And you're in this vulnerable place and you're feeling like, oh my God, the art world is so oversaturated. I'm never going to make it. And just the hope and the dream that you're sold of being with this agent. And then I think that's how, and I would like to believe that the agency contracts that I've reviewed a lot that are completely fair and that are really reasonable. And then I've seen a few that are not so great. But I would like to think that the agencies that have this quote unquote sneaky language in their contracts either don't know any better because they used LegalZoom, or they don't know what it means, or they really don't plan on enforcing it. Not that that matters, but it feels really icky, and it's really kind of scary because if you're not careful and you don't have an attorney look at it, you could end up with all of the art that you create for the next 10 years having to be given to the agent. Like if you post something on Instagram, then the agent owns it. I mean, really, some of these contracts are that bad.
Yeah. I don't want to say I'm more pessimistic than you. I think the way that I look, and this probably is influenced by the fact that I did get an MBA and I did have all, and I've also been, at the upper levels, like vice president level of agencies. I've,
you have a lot of different experience than what I have.
I've run business units that operated on profit and loss, that kind of thing. And I believe that they're lawyers and they are going to come at you with what is best for them.
Of course.
Right? It is your job to advocate for yourself. They are not there to advocate for you in the contracting process. They are there to get the best deal for them.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody's predatory. I'm not saying that in any stretch of the imagination. But if I were to create a illustration agency, representation, whatever, I would expect my lawyer to craft a contract for me that gave me every possible advantage I could get. Now, me being me, I'm not going to want to screw the artist over. I would want fair terms.
Yeah.
But that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
That's my lawyer's job, is to look out for me.
Right.
I would also want the artist to be like, I'd be like, have your lawyer, like this is a starting point of conversation. And I think that that's what too many of us in the industry who are just, doing the absolute best they can, but they're especially as women, because women aren't taught to negotiate, right?
No, we're not.
Very much
taught to smile and say thank you and yes,
right?
And
just accept what's given to us, But for instance, so I fucked up that first contract, but as point of pride, I negotiated the fuck out of the next two.
I'm sure, and you, it is not your fault that happened. That is, you didn't know. And, I mean, like I said, I had a freelance client years ago, more than 15 years ago, who, I had a contract with them, but, I have been screwed over to where I didn't get paid and then had to sue the person. And then I won a judgment. By the way, I was my own attorney. I went to civil or small claims court, but but that's the thing is it takes experience. It's okay in the beginning. I mean, it's okay because it happens, but try not to let it happen. But in the beginning, when you're first starting out, I'm not surprised that happened. Yeah, because that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, it does.
And that contract was designed to do that to you.
Right. And the worst part about it is that is what is considered a standard book contract, right? That is that, because I researched it really hard. It's just, whatever. But, and I've given myself grace for that. But, but the other, thinking of just about my favorite red flags, contracts that don't have termination language in it.
Oh yeah. Or don't have a time limit.
don't have a time limit. Yes, they should always have a term limit, period.
Yeah.
And like with my next books, I negotiated 5-year auto renewing terms unless somebody decided to terminate. Right. So
Yeah.
like that way. Cause I mean, I get you're trying to sell books here,
Yeah.
but every 5 years we get to decide if we keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like I did that, took out everything that, they weren't promising to do, et cetera, et cetera. But I have gotten, especially with freelance, I have gotten contracts that don't have termination language in it. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. We all have to have a way to end this contract if this is not working, because you are not going to keep me tied to you forever.
Yeah. And as the artist, hopefully you also get compensated for the work that you've done up to that point too.
Right. I always negotiate kill fees. Absolutely. All of that. But, like that's something else that like, I think, especially as artists are coming into freelance work, they're not thinking about the worst case scenario because you're so excited to get work or to get a client, like that you're not thinking about what is the worst case. So you have to think about things like material breach, like they've totally not done what they said they were going to do. They're making it impossible for you to fulfill your end of the contract. How do you get out of it? Or even just they're assholes and you don't like working for them anymore and you don't want to give your piece to them anymore. How do you get out of it? Like all of that needs to be written into the contract. And if it's not, you need to put it there.
Well, and that's a really good point. I run into a lot of contracts that are missing a lot of things. So you're right. The lack of termination. I've run into a lot of contracts where there's no time limit listed on the art. So that means that it's open-ended, which is like, wait a minute. No, like we can do a renewal after a year, but I need to know how long you're going to hold on to this art.
Right.
There are a lot of exclusive art licensing contracts out there that I've run into. And that's really standard. That's normal. But the thing is, if you license a piece of art exclusively to a company and then they put it out on the shelves and maybe they put it on a product that is not the best place for them to have put it and it doesn't sell or it doesn't sell very well. If you don't have some kind of a, end date as to when they're going to release that back to you, you can't ever use it again.
Right.
So that means that art is gone. And yes, you can draw another one like that, but you shouldn't have to.
Exactly. No, that's very real. And, and I think, this gets into things even like with contests and stuff like that. You have to look at like what is happening with your art. Though I got to tell you, and this is just an aside, but like I laugh a lot when I'm on Facebook and I see those posts that people do that like, by posting this, I'm saying that Facebook can't use my art, my pictures and blah, blah, blah. And
wait, what? I haven't seen this.
Oh my God.
I'm never on Facebook anymore. What is going on? Tell me.
So like, it's like people are copying. I don't know the origin of where it comes from, but in my circle, I have seen this copied and pasted post that's like, Facebook is changing its terms. And by posting this, I am saying that Facebook does not have permission to use my photos. It's basically like a copyright statement. And I always want to be like, the moment you created an account on Facebook, you agree to their terms. It does not matter what you post. Right. But I'd have to post it like to my relatives.
Oh God, yeah. You don't want to do that. And I'm like,
because the thing is there are licensing an end user license agreement.
Correct.
Right?
All that fine print you get when you sign with Airbnb or Uber or anybody.
Right?
Yeah.
Or Instagram. Or Facebook, Meta in general, or TikTok, you have signed an end user license agreement.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be real honest. I'm at the point where like PayPal emailed me yesterday. We have changed our terms.
I saw that.
Honestly, at this point, I'm just kind of like delete because I'm not going to cancel my PayPal account because I have too many clients that are paying me through it. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what they changed.
Right.
My only option is close the account.
Yeah. And then you'll have to find another platform to use and they're going to probably be the same, if not worse. At least PayPal. They have a pretty good reputation as far as they have a history and longevity. And, I feel relatively safe using PayPal.
Yeah. So. I feel very comfortable. I'm going to get my money through PayPal. That's it. I still transfer it out of their fucking server. Like the instant I'm like, no, I'm not leaving it anywhere. You're going to transfer it to my bank immediately.
Oh yeah,
But,
I don't ever leave money in my PayPal
yeah,
account.
Cash App, all of them. I'm like, transfer.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but like, so these are just like contracts rule our life. Contracts rule our world.
Yep.
And the other thing, I think the biggest red flag of all is they don't have a contract and they want you to work with them. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Love, love, love. Have your own contract.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to give a plug out because I'm not an affiliate in any way, shape, or form, but good guy, Michael Sheridan, he works for Shannon McNabb. I've talked to him personally. He's also a lawyer, but he's a surface pattern designer. He has a template of contracts that you can buy.
Nice.
So he's in our world. He is a surface pattern designer and he's a lawyer. And so if you don't have a contract, go get one of his.
Yeah.
And I'll link in the show notes to his template library. But and he does all the legal articles on Shannon McNabb's blog now.
Oh, okay. I've read his stuff then. That's cool.
Yeah, Michael I think Sheridan is his last name. So, but the biggest red flag of all is they don't have a contract.
Yeah.
Our country,
even if it's just a short one,
right,
just so you have something.
Exactly. Like I had a client recently that just asked me to tweak their logo, and I'm like, all right, I had to do no creativity other than I needed to fix some things because they didn't like the logo they ended up with.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to make some changes and fix it. They didn't want to go back to the original source. So fine. But even that, I was like, we're going to have a contract for the 10 minutes of work this is going to take me to do.
Right.
We're going to have a contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care what it is. We will have it governed by a contract because in the end, and I've been on the other side of this, whereas, especially like I was the vice president, I was hiring contractors. I've always worked in technology, so I was the vice president of technology for a national association. And, when you have to go back to the contract, the relationship is already a problem.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that contract, you don't know where the parameters are. You're anything goes at that point because it's he said, she said.
Right.
And so, a contract in this country, the United States, is a starting point of negotiation. You do not have to accept a contract just as it was handed to you ever.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Ever.
Sure.
So
do not just jump and sign because you're excited.
Exactly.
Well, and I have a little tip for everybody listening. So one thing that I have run into with both agencies and art licensees is when we're at the beginning stages and I pitch them, they say they like my work, and then either they send me their contract or I send them mine. But usually it's when they send me their contract. At the very beginning, the first few that I did, I had an attorney reviewing it, but I wrote to them and said, let me get back to you. I have my attorney reviewing this. I have had multiple people ghost me just by saying that. Now, let me add that's a red flag right there.
Absolutely.
But if you're afraid that that's going to happen, all you have to do is say, okay, great. Thank you so much for sending this. Give me a moment to look it over and I'll get back to you. Mm-hmm. And then here's my piece of advice for everybody. If you are just starting out as an illustrator, a surface designer, a photographer, a writer, any kind of artist, if you're just starting out and you're new to this, it is worth the money. Even if you can go to a local SCORE, the local business, or any kind of nonprofit place somewhere, or my God, I mean, I don't know if I'd recommend ChatGPT, but I'm sure there's some semi-free sources out there. But go to an expert. Maybe you have a family friend who's an attorney and you can buy them a 6-pack of beer. I don't know. But don't just go at it alone. And for God's sake, don't sign anything unless you've at least had someone else who kind of knows what they're doing look at it. Because the thing is, if you have a contract and you're afraid that you're going to lose the potential client, this happens all the time. You're like, I'm afraid to tell them. I'm afraid to push back. I'm afraid to tell them my attorney. Just say, okay, give me a moment to take a look at it. And then ask whoever's looking at it if you can't, hopefully you can, try to paraphrase what the concerns are into sentence form, into verbal language. This contract looks great. There are just a few questions I had, a few sticking points. Could we change this to this? Or can you define? So one thing I have run into is sublicensing and transfer. So I've run into contracts where it's like, we reserve the right, if we license your art, to transfer it to anybody we want or sublicense it. And you don't have to be all, confrontational, but you can say, well, what do you mean by sublicense? What do you mean by transfer? And can we please define that in the contract? Because here's the other thing, vague contract terms are also dangerous. If they say, I ran into a contract recently that said, if artist does not meet terms or does not meet artist's required tasks, company reserves the right to terminate contract and seek financial compensation and liability.
Oh, that sounds like they were going to make you pay back anything that they said that they.
And I'm like, wait, what? And I said, what even is this? Like, what are you talking about? No. And that's just crazy. And I'm like, is this contract itself a scam? Like, is this like an elaborate email, like spam that's actually just in the form of a contract? Like, seriously, I have run into the craziest things. So pay attention, look for things that are missing, read it over. Eventually, once you've looked at a few contracts, and I encourage you to read them, even if your eyes glaze over and it's legalese. And once you've had a few contracts with some, either an agent or licensees or whatever, you're going to get better at looking for this stuff. But the first few, don't go at it alone. Yeah. If you can't afford to hire an attorney or someone who's an expert, even if it's like for a low cost, if you can find it, then don't sign it. It's better to just wait until you can find a contract that you read and makes sense to you and does not seem predatory or, have any shady language in there, sneaky language. It's better. There will be more clients. Yeah.
And I second everything that you just said. And I would offer, a few things. One, the moment that you're telling yourself, I'm afraid of, really, really think about that.
Yep.
Like really, really ask yourself, is this the right thing for me to get into? Because you own your art.
Yep.
Right. Until you license it to somebody else. That means you have 100% of the rights to it. That means you get 100% of the dollars off of it.
And you have all the freedom to do with it whatever you want.
Whatever you want. And I'm a big believer that if your gut is giving you like question marks, you need to listen really, really, really hard.
Yep.
I second what Carrie said about don't go it alone, but I would offer this. And this is something that I did when I was being asked to help develop an app. And it was an app for creative writing for trauma healing. The other half of my life, I don't talk about it much here because it's not relevant, but I do a lot of trauma research and trauma education. And I was kind of like in talks with local university to develop an app, and they sent me their contract. And so this is what I did, because I am not at a point where I can drop the hourly rate on a lawyer comfortably.
Yeah.
So there are services like Legal Shield. MetLife is another one that's out there, and they have business options. Legal Shield is like, at the time I did this, it was $50 a month. I signed up for the month, and you can talk to a lawyer about everything. They have IP lawyers, which is who I asked to talk to, and I gave them that contract to review. And he came back and basically told me I would have absolutely no rights, no control, no nothing.
Wow. That's good though.
Yeah. And then I canceled it as soon as I got the answer. So I think I paid $50 total.
Yeah. That's way cheaper than an attorney's hourly rate.
Right. Exactly. And the other thing too, with those services is it covers a range of things that you might have questions about in your business. Now, are they going to do things for you? Like that lawyer was not going to negotiate the contract for me. Okay.
Yeah. Or redline it for you. But at least they could give you an educated opinion.
Educated, review of it. Tell me all the things that I need to be worried about and give me guidance. Like they'll answer any question you have for your $50, but you're still doing the work. Right.
Yeah.
So highly, highly recommend services like that. And then if you're not using it, cancel it.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's plenty of nonprofits all over,
Yes.
I know, in the United States that offer legal services for low or no cost, depending. Now, a lot of those no cost ones are for, like divorce and things like that, because it's obviously a different matter.
Right. Yeah.
But also SCORE, I think that's
Yes.
right. SCORE is
SCORE.
this. What does that stand for again? Business.
I don't remember, something of retired executives, but I have to say I'm a subject matter expert for my local SCORE. So you don't have to be retired anymore. I'm a branding subject matter expert for my local SCORE. But
you want to tell us what SCORE is really quick? Because I know
Sure.
they help people with businesses.
They do.
And they often have attorneys that can do kind of like what you were talking about.
Right. So basically, SCORE is an organization that, regardless of what type of business you are, you can go to them and they will assign you a mentor. And then that mentor's job is to help connect you to the various resources that you need, and subject matter experts. So as I've mentioned before, I'm a subject matter expert on branding for my local SCORE. And so I have talked to businesses as varied as a lady who actually helps make sensory friendly air travel for autistic children, to
Oh, wow.
a woman who did a drop shipping business. You know what I'm saying? So like I've talked to like all kinds of different people. I went to SCORE when I set up my nonprofit, which is why I volunteer for them now, because I wanted to give back, because they helped me out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like, they're really great. There's all different kinds of people involved. But they're all connected to a national organization. And so your local agency has national resources available to them, but they can help you with all of your questions. And somewhere in that, there's always legal resources. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and so we'll drop something in the show notes for SCORE as well.
Cool.
But so to wrap it up, try not to go it alone. There are resources for you. Don't feel bad if you end up in a situation where you missed something. It happens to all of us.
Yep.
But do the best you can. But read. And if you don't feel like you understand that contract, don't sign it.
And I'm going to second or third what you said about if you look at a contract, if you get a contract and you just feel weird about it, listen to your gut, because there's a reason for that.
Exactly.
Trust yourself.
I think that's a wrap.
If you're loving this podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, we'd love it if you could rate and review us. Your support helps more people discover the show, and it keeps us going strong. Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot.
I'm Toni.
And I'm Carrie. It's okay to be cranky.
In the meantime, keep creating.